did photos and it's going up.
Okay, you want it up now or no? You need that for this?
We'll wait.
Perfect. All right, welcome. Today we got Sam with us. Does everybody know who Sam is?
I do.
A couple people. Okay. He's been helping us a little bit with our commercial side. Knows a lot about investors. That's what he's going to talk about today. Some working with investors. Who wants to work with investors here? If you had a chance. Great. Yeah. There's a way to work with them in a way that they can waste your time. So learn the right way. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time. And when you waste a lot of time, you don't make any money. And that's no fun either. So, so he'll give us some good tips on that. How long have you been in this?
9 years.
9 years. Okay. It's a lot of experience here. We'll. Do you have anything you want to share?
2 minutes.
Okay. 2 minutes, and then we'll.
I know you're here to see Sam. I want to get you a couple facts and figures that are interesting that I want to share with you that I gathered the last few weeks. That's important to you guys. Number one, I don't know if you knew that Utah was the fastest growing state of all 50 states this last year when it comes to percentage of new housing starts, new homes that were built. California, Texas, Florida, North Carolina had more units, but as far as the percentage of how many homes we had and how many new homes were built, Utah had the fastest increase of any state in the country, a little over 2%. It's a great sign for things that are out there, opportunities. Along with that, last year there was over 25,000 new permits issued, which is the most that have been issued in over a decade. So again, we're catching up, right? That was the first time since 2006 where we didn't have a shortage of new housing starts that were created, meaning new households that were created versus new housing starts. There was a shortage in the last decade, over 12 years. We weren't building enough homes in Utah. Now we're catching up. So again, there's more opportunities to build, more opportunities to buy. The median sales price, anyone know what it is this last year?
330.
A little less, it was 321 from a report from the University of Utah. Not Salt Lake County, so maybe a little bit more all over, but Salt Lake County is 321. The average mortgage payment this last year on a home in Salt Lake was $2,000 a month. Okay, $2,000 a month. That's $800 more than it was 5 years ago. Okay, so that's a huge $800 more than it was just 5 years ago, and that's with rates as low as they've ever been right now. This is the lowest we've ever seen them. That's in a period of decreasing interest rates. We're seeing home values increasing. These are all things that you all want to know about as you're going out talking to potential people for listings. For those of you that deal with investors, the vacancy rate on residential property is under 4%. That's half of what it was about a decade ago. So we see that a lot because there's not enough housing starts. People have to rent. Rental prices are going up. It's a great time to be an investor. Also, Utah was ranked as one of the best fiscally run states in the country. Recently, there was a report issued by George Mason University back in Washington, D.C., and they tracked for the previous decade all state governments, mainly about their cash solvency, their ability to pay for things, stay out of debt. And Utah was one of the best states run. We probably all knew that, but it's one of the best states that's run.
Who's the worst?
The worst was Illinois. Really? Illinois, one of the worst. Chicago area is terrible. Yeah. So these are just some fun facts and figures, right? If you go on listing presentations, you're all trying to get more listings. The more you know, the better you're going to come across, right? The better you're going to be able to prepare yourself and be a better agent to be able to get that listing. We're here to help you with that. We're here to help you give information. We're here to help you with your clients, whether they're listing something or wanting to buy. Yeah.
So for an investor, what's a interest rate right now for, let's say, a duplex?
So probably the mid to high fours right now on an investor. Investor loans, you got to put a lot of money down, 20 to 25%. Rates are in the high threes right now on a primary residence, but investor loans, they go up, and they go up for single family, duplex, triplex, fourplex, right? The more you have, the more they are. So they're in the mid to high fours right now for someone that's got great credit, putting 25% down.
What about for a townhome, 20% versus 25%?
So you said 25% down.
25% on investment, you have to have 25% down on an investment property. So,
But not if it's a townhome, right?
correct.
So, but there is a big rate jump if you go up to 25% on a townhome, right?
Yes, there can be as much as 0.25% difference in rate.
Got it. So about a quarter percent.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Remember, those of you that one of the quotes from last week at my fair that I love, if those of you were there, why I wanted to bring up these points was every day you're learning, you will continue to keep Those of you there, every day you're learning, you will continue to keep earning. Warren Buffett said that. Keep learning, that's why you're here today. Get these facts and figures, be a better presenter when you go out to get your listings. We're here to help you with any loan needs that you have. Any questions, feel free to come down and talk to us anytime, okay? Okay, Sam, up to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, is everybody excited to be here?
Yes.
It's hump day, you're halfway through the week. Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming. So one other thing that Mike Ferry said, did anybody go to Mike Ferry? I know there's a few of us there.
Yeah.
You know, one thing he said is increase your streams of income. So when I was a new agent, I called FSBOs every day. I was calling 40 to 50 people a day. FSBOs expireds. Those were 90% of my business. And I mean, I was very, very regimented and called every single day, massive lead follow-up. And my first 6 months in the business, I did 16 deals. That was in 2011. It was a different market. I wish I had been working with investors back then, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to work with investors. Fun fact, the reason I got my real estate license, oh, hey, thanks for showing up. We're just to the part of the presentation about time management.
That's good. That's a lot.
Guys, this is Stephen Maddox with Edge Homes. This is David Hodges with Edge Homes. Jared Richards, he's my insurance guy. They came to support. They also like to go shooting, mountain biking, you know, so they're fun guys as well. But I work with them because I think they're the best at what they do. And we've sold a lot of property together, and we've done a lot of insurance together. But back to my fun fact, the reason I got my license because I bought a flip in 2011. It had sold for $330 in 2007. I bought it for $170. So it's always been on my mind. I've always been really excited about investing in real estate. But my realtor said, hey, if you can knock doors and pay for schools selling alarm systems, you could probably do real estate. So I was just hoping one day, hopefully I can make $100,000 a year in real estate. That would have been the best. Now, I grew up poor. I didn't have money. We grew up very, very, very poor. So my wife wasn't too impressed because she grew up in Park City, very wealthy. But she said, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's, you know, whatever. You just, if you love it, go for it. So that's awesome. But we made, let's see, we bought it for $170. We sold it for $240 a couple years later. We made pretty darn good money on that one. We flipped that into a duplex. So we bought the duplex for $215. 1 year later, sold it for $265. Moved into the house in Lehigh that we bought for $240. We just put that under contract for $350. We then bought another flip in Saratoga Springs. David said, hey, I've got a neighbor, they're struggling to sell their house, they're for sale by owner. It was disgusting, thank you very much though, because I ended up being his neighbor. I bought it, used my commission as the down payment, bought it for $380. I think it's gonna sell for $475, maybe $500 if I'm really, 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 really lucky and a California buyer comes, but probably not. So I love investing, this is what I do. I've also bought 2 townhomes from David and Steven, sold over 45 of their townhomes to investors with Edge Homes. And I really like working with these guys. And in my opinion, it's the best investment in the market. I have 2 more under contract with my business partner. So just wanted to get through that. I practice what I preach. And for investors, when you guys talk to investors, that's very important. So go sell your homes and buy an investment. Seriously, best advice you could ever get, I think, is to actually start investing or get a partnership together and go buy a duplex or go buy an Edge townhome. Get some people, pull some money together, because you will not be able to do this as well. You will not be able to sell. Oh, thanks, Lindsay, for showing up. Appreciate it. You'll be able to do a much better job for your clients if you have experienced it yourself. So what does Grant Cardone say? Anybody follow Grant Cardone? What does he say about duplexes and fourplexes? Don't buy them. Don't buy anything under 16 units. Does anybody know why he says that? Matt, you have a guess?
Economies
of scale. Economies of scale? Yeah, because for the same headache, why don't you go make way more money and get a 16 unit? You'll make more money. Way less risk, more economies of scale. I disagree with Grant Cardone. He has $1 billion in real estate. I don't. Okay, maybe that's arrogant of me to disagree with him, but you need experience. Buy something smart. Start with a duplex or a townhome with edge, and start somewhere. So I absolutely disagree with Grant Cardone. You have to start somewhere. I've made crazy money. I bought a townhome from David 3 years ago for $220. What are they going for now? Base price, same townhome.
303. 05.
I didn't do anything. All I did is sit there and I made $80,000, $85,000. So that's why I disagree with Grant Cardone. So my first part of what I wanted to talk about today is to sell you on working with investors, okay? So when I was new, I didn't really know anything. Investors wouldn't talk to me. I wasn't targeting them. But I had this fantastic broker, John Hart, Mountain Land Realty. He's a stud. And I left them because of some reasons, but as far as personal growth and helping his agents learn about investors, I'm forever grateful to him. So he taught me about cap rate. He taught me about a couple things, and I soon learned that working with investors was really fun. So in 2012, my income was X, and I was adding clientele through FSBOs expires, but I learned that calling 40 expireds and FSBOs a day kind of kept getting me the same numbers. So I listened to Mike Ferry and I said, okay, I'm going to add this income stream of investors. So I started going up. And it really clicked. I started getting return business and getting a reputation for working with investors. 2017, I made X, and this is a really bad chart. These numbers should actually be here. 2018, I tripled my best income, which was 2017. I tripled my 2017 income. So sorry, I'm not a very good artist. That's not to scale. And that was almost all investor based. So last year I sold 106 properties, 90 something of them were investors. And I was able to list a huge project in Boise because I knew investors. This company hired me to go do that. But I had already been working with investors for a few years and kind of knew my stuff. So it's not like I went and applied for a job for them. Anyways, so this year I'm probably going to be 80% investors again. The best part about it is when you get these investors, when you're good at it, I'll spend 1 hour with an investor per $10,000 to $15,000 paycheck. 1 hour over the phone in my underwear, usually at my house at night or on a Saturday, talking to this guy. And because I have the pro forma, I have the knowledge, I have everything set up. So that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. You guys can grow your income. Please learn investments. You'll make a ton of money. It's another income stream. Mike Ferry will be proud of you, but definitely learn it. So who knows what cap rate is? Matt?
Capitalization rate?
Yes.
What would you like me to say that?
So what is it used for? Why is it important?
It's kind of like an APR. It's a good way to compare apples to apples.
Exactly.
Dollar spent versus cost. Yeah, operating cost versus the income produced.
Yeah, it's simply a metric that we use to measure if it's a good investment or not. So we don't know what kind of debt you're going to get for this duplex or this fourplex or this townhome. So because we don't know what kind of debt you're going to get, we remove the debt or the financing side from the equation, and that's what cap rate is. It's all of the income and expenses without debt, and that's how we compare apples to apples. So we take your, who knows what GOI is? GOI. Gross operating income. We find out your net operating income, divide that by the price, and we get your cap rate. So it's really just a simple way of kind of knowing if it's a good deal. Who knows what the average cap rate is right here in Utah right now? Average going cap rate.
Like
5?
6%.
6? Anybody?
Yeah, I've seen 8% out there, but
I've heard 7.
I've seen 8 too.
like
You've heard
that's,
7?
I think about 6.5 is probably average 6.5.
I would love to find a 7 or an 8
Yeah,
or a 6.5 or a 6. The best as far as location, combination of cap rate and location, it's like 5.9 right now, and that's the Edge townhomes. That's why I brought these guys. You guys need to pitch Edge townhomes to your investors I would love it if you didn't because I want to sell them all. They have a limit of how many they can sell to investors. But per location, per good location, 5.9 is the very best cap rate I've been able to find right now. Average is 5.5.
And that's just townhomes you're talking about, or just like single family homes? Or
That's
what are you talking
That's
about?
investment properties in general. I can't find much better than 5.5. That's about average. Your fourplex you're selling right now is a 5.5.
Right.
My triplex, which is next to his fourplex that he's selling, I'm going to put up for sale at a 5.5. That's about the average cap rate. So if you know the market average is 5.5, and you're good at calculating cap rate, we're going to teach you a really easy way to calculate it right now. And you find a 7 or an 8, you can get really excited and say, Mr. Investor, I need you to sign this offer now. No questions asked. Don't argue with me. Sign it, because you're not going to find another one like this again. And then you tell them why. That's very powerful. But if you call and say, hey, I found a deal. Here's what the rents are, and what do you think?
Right.
That's a very different conversation. So what I do is I prep my investors, and I say, all right, Matt, Mr. Investor Matt, if I find you a 7, I'm not going to tell you really anything about the property. I'm just going to ask you to sign an offer.
Wow.
Okay?
I like that.
We have 2 weeks of due diligence, and if he's in Utah, I'll show him the property. Most of my investors are not. If he's in Utah, I'll show him the property. But a lot of investors don't want you to walk through and disturb their tenants anyways. So what they're going to do is give you the financials, give you the information, and that's what you base your offer on. And then if there's things that need to be repaired, you can negotiate that. But Matt, you need to sign the offer today because it's probably going to sell in the next couple of hours. We need to get an offer in, and we need to offer above asking by $10,000. This is a property you do not want to miss. Well, why do I need to offer above asking? Because it's a 7 cap. You can offer $25,000 above asking, and it's still a good deal.
Yes.
Okay? So have that information ready, be able to calculate cap rates. Let's go over really quick how we calculate cap rates. So just an equation. So you're going to take NOI divided by the price. Okay? Here's the problem. Have you guys who's ever talked to an investor, someone that owns an investment property on the phone, other than Matt? Boo, or Steven, sorry. Half the time, they don't even know what their expenses
I
are.
have no idea.
They're like, yeah, they're 15, 20% of the gross operating. They're
My
not.
mortgage is this.
Okay, so write this number down, 35%. For the past 100 years, we know that an investment property that's fourplexes or smaller, these residential investment properties, will average 35% expenses of the gross income. So all you really need are what the rents are. I've talked to investors that don't even know what their rents are, but that's a whole other problem. So if we know, so let's do some math. Anybody have their phone? Can you do a calculation? Okay.
Really quick, what
Go
is NOI?
Net operating income. So you take your gross income, subtract out all the expenses, and that gives you your net income. Okay? So, Matt, my investor, tells me I have a fourplex, it's 15 years old, it's in Pleasant Grove, I just sold one of those, and I'm getting $900 a month per door. Okay, so what's my GOI, what's my gross operating income? 4 times 900
It's 36.
times 12 months.
43.
I can't do that in my head.
42,200.
43, okay. And then multiply that, not by 35%, multiply that by 0.65. Because we want to know what is 65% of the gross operating income. 28,000, got it. That's your net operating income. Okay, now divide that by a price of, I'm going to throw out 550,000. Divide that by 550,000. 0.051 That's a 5.1. Just move the decimal place over to. That's a 5.1 cap rate. So when I have Matt on the phone, Matt, the property that I just found, it's a 5.1. They're asking way too much. It has all this deferred maintenance. Here's why it's a good deal though. It's an amazing location. So you need to be able to calculate cap rate on the fly with only rents. Okay, that is a ballpark figure. What if we go to the property and we know that the roof is shot, that the tenants are fixing Harleys in the living rooms, you know, it's basically destroyed. It's not really a 5.1 cap rate anymore because our estimation was off. So we're gonna throw in $70,000 for CapEx. What's CapEx? Capital expenditures. Okay, and that'll change the cap rate. But it's a really, really good way just to be able to, on the phone, if you're prospecting investors, what is my fourplex worth? Well, tell me what your rents are. And I would do it over the phone all the time. Calculate it. Okay, well, you know, I know the going cap rate's about, I'd tell them a little bit higher because they always want more. Going cap rate's about 5.75. So that tells me your property's worth somewhere around $500,000. When can I come out and see your property? You know, better than that, I have a buyer. I'm just going to write an offer. So this market's hard to get a listing. It's even harder to get a listing with investors because they don't want to sell. They don't want to show the property. So these are all tools that you can use when prospecting. Any questions about cap rate, NOI?
I have a question. Now, how would you figure the cap rate, like if the rent is charged like daily, like a bed and breakfast or hotel?
So brings me to my next point. Really good question. You would need to actually have a pro forma, and you'd have to build out a pro forma. When you get different details like that, and it's a lot more complicated, I'm not going to use the 35% rule. Daily, you know, if it's like an Airbnb property, expenses are way different. Don't use this rule for Airbnb properties. Definitely not, or anything like that, because they have a cleaning fee every time someone comes and stays. So you would need to get actuals. You would need to say, give me your T12, your trailing 12 financials, give me all of your expenses, and then you can build out the cap rate. So that actually takes me to my oh, you have a question?
Yeah, so one of the things I run into with a lot of new investors is, you know, they don't know anything about cap rates. So what's the easiest way to get them to like start following kind of, you know, your equation essentially with their next property that they're purchasing?
It's a really good question. So probably where one of the reasons I made these jumps from X to 3 times that is I took a different approach. I took an education approach, and it's something I really, really, really like. Is I sit down with you and say, or on the phone, Matt, I don't want to pitch anything to you unless you understand why I'm pitching it to you. So we're going to run through a couple properties, and we're going to calculate cap rate together. And so what I'll do is I'll have examples of the property I want to sell them. But you can't just give them that, because then they don't really, just like you asked, they don't really know if it's a good deal.
Right.
I'd have a mid-grade property and an enticing looking but terrible investment. And you actually teach them why or why not that's a good investment.
You
And
have
that's
specific properties that you just reuse over and over again, which is
look on the or a really powerful thing. Well, if once you're good at this, jump on the MLS. Most everything on the MLS is a terrible deal
right.
because everything that's a good deal sells immediately,
Yeah.
or it sells off market.
Right.
So pull the MLS up and say, okay, show me a property that you think would be interesting. And it's funny because this investor I had, he said, I will never, ever, ever, ever buy this fourplex from you. And it was by far the best deal I had. It's like, I'm not going to buy that. I want something else in Salt Lake County. And so I just jumped on the MLS. We started calculating cap rates. This is a terrible location, but good cap rate. Do you want that, Mr. Investor? No, I don't really want to deal with those type of tenants. Okay, well, here's a better cap rate or a better location, but the cap rate's really low. And then, oh, the property that I knew was a good deal all of a sudden becomes a lot more clear. So you walk them through the process. Okay, let's get out your calculator, Mr. Investor. Let's walk through the process. Let's look at Google Earth. Look, oh, there's all these cars parked on the grass in this neighborhood. That's a sign of people just not caring. That's probably not a good tenant base to have. So really, it's not selling; it's asking really good questions and walking them through it, educating them. So Matt, do you want tenants that fix their Harleys in the living room?
No.
Okay. Do you want all of your surrounding neighbors? This is a duplex I own. Do you want to have a nice duplex and have everyone else with 3-foot tall weeds?
No.
What do you think that does to prospective tenants when they come to rent your duplex?
Scares you.
Scares them off, right? Your rent is capped. You're never going to be able to increase rents. You think you are, but so location matters, right? Okay. So Matt, if we can get a good combination of location and cap rate, sounds like that's a better investment, right? This investor ended up buying multiple of those properties from me that he said he would never ever buy because we walked through that process. And that happened with multiple investors last year. Nope, I'm not even going to look at that, not even going to consider it. A couple hours later, an hour later, okay, send me over a contract, because it's education. They're uneducated or they just don't know, okay? So one big thing is jobs that we focus on. So I want to do a quick, David or you weren't there, so you can participate. Steven, you can't participate because that'd be cheating. Who knows? Let's just name off a couple of big companies that have moved to Salt Lake, Lehigh, Provo area in the last year. Let's see if everyone can pick a new one. So who wants to go first?
Amazon.
Amazon. Huge distribution center, okay? Next company. Can you think of someone that's a big employer that has moved to the area?
eBay.
eBay.
I got nothing.
Okay. Somebody help them out.
Microsoft.
Microsoft. Entrada.
Tyson chicken.
Tyson Foods. Huge. Thank you. So, Eagle Mountain might be a good
And
place to
Facebook.
invest right now. Facebook. That's Matt's.
Sorry. Adobe.
Adobe. Thank you. Anything? Oracle. Okay.
yeah, it's-
Oracle.
Workfront.
Workfront. What's another one?
Podium.
UPS still.
Podio?
Podium.
Podium?
Podium, yeah.
There's a Podio as well, right? Hi, by the way.
And solar.
Domo, they're huge. They've grown like crazy. Jared, any companies you can think of? Lendio, they just built a big building, right?
They're building one right now.
Or they're
yeah.
building one right now, right?
But they're in the Entrada building right now.
So help them out. What's another one?
Digicert.
Digicert? WeWork. Yep, WeWork's a big,
Yeah, we looks good.
I don't know how big of an employer they'll be.
I saw Visa. Visa's over there
Visa's got a big building, Zactware.
too.
Qualtrics just sold for how much?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good number to know. A really good stat to talk to your investor about. Lindsay, do you have a company?
Well, I named like 4, but you weren't listening.
Well, it wasn't your turn yet, so you're speaking out of turn, so those don't count. So what's another one?
You're on point, man. Come on.
So here's my point, guys. Why is that important to an investor?
Well, they want to know what's surrounding that.
Because you just told them a couple minutes ago, we want to buy around jobs, right, Mr. Investor? Oh, absolutely. Okay. Well, here's a list of the 50, and if you can name those off, and hey, who knows how many jobs total have come to the Lehigh area in the last 5 to 6 years?
Gosh. Those 6,000.
Okay. Any guesses?
I say $5 grand.
I'd say right around 6,500.
I will buy somebody a nice lunch if you can get within 5,000 of the right number.
Within 5,000 of the right number?
What was the time frame?
15
Yeah.
the last 5 years.
In the last 5 years, 60,000.
Holy.
Oh,
How do you get a guess?
Wow.
I could tell you're going to be wrong. Sorry.
Yeah,
Wayne.
where can you get all that information
$55,000.
about new businesses and?
Okay, so there's KSL. They have articles about it.
Okay.
There's lots of different news mediums. I look at Facebook. I follow Colliers. So there's a few commercial brokers that will give you all the stats as well. So on Facebook, on LinkedIn, I'll follow all the big commercial brokers. So who do we have? We have Colliers is basically have a chokehold on the
How's
market
that,
here.
Colliers?
Colliers International,
How do you spell that?
Colliers, I believe.
Actually got
Oh,
something
okay,
you'll see
yeah.
sign.
Yeah, that looks
Sam,
familiar
make
now.
a statement on this too, if you guys are looking at your market statistics that Gretchen sends out to you every week, and you look at it based on counties, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to look at it and go, oh, something's going on here, I should probably do some research in that county.
Look at home price increases in Lehigh in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, I could find a $250,000 nice house for my buyers. You can get a condo, a 3-bedroom condo for $240,000, $250,000, right? In
Or
Lehigh.
what, there's one of them listed right now, it's built in 1899.
Yeah, $1,899. Okay, so look at price increases. So, Mr. Investor, why do you think these price increases are so strong in Lehigh? Jobs, 60,000 jobs. Name off the companies. So, I went to work for Steve Bond at Remax in 2015, end of 2015. The reason I went to work for him is he asked me to come over. I was bringing investors to his project in Vineyard. And each time I brought an investor out, he said, Mr. Investor, and he had a nice pro forma, spreadsheets. Here's all the people that are moving to Vineyard. Here's all the building that's going on. UVU's expanding their campus, and he would name off of a list. He had a fantastic presentation, knew all the stats, knew the size of the buildings, the size of the companies that were going on. And our investors were like, wow, you know your stuff. He knows his stuff, doesn't he? And I was like taking notes as fast as I could, like, holy crap, this guy's so much better at selling than me. He wasn't better at selling, he just had the stats, he had the knowledge, and he didn't have to sell. He would just ask really good questions. So I went to work with FIG and the Fourplex Investment Group and Steve Bond. And that's really where my investor sales took off. So have a fantastic presentation. Mike Ferry teaches that, be able to present. You're not doing a listing presentation, you're doing an investor presentation. You guys should practice together. Who knows what the average price of a fourplex is in Utah right now?
Newer or old?
Yeah.
Just average.
400 or 500?
A fourplex?
400 or 500?
$865.
Yeah, I'd say like 7.
It depends on where it's at, really.
I'd say between 6 and 7.
We're close between 6 and 7. Who would love an average price of $700,000?
Oh, of course.
So my average price also, not only did I do 106 deals last year, but the average price was around almost 700,000. That's a lot better than selling, no offense, but edge home condos at 250. They're more work anyways. I'll still sell a bunch of those, but my average price last year was around 600,000. 6 to 7. I can't remember. I should know that. But that's the other reason to work with investors. Way better average price. Here's the other thing. If you get a really good investor, they're going to buy from you twice a year. I have an investor worth $300 million. Just writes checks for this stuff. He just writes checks if he likes it. So he bought from me in Idaho. Bought from me. I'm licensed in Idaho, by the way. He's bought from me here. And now we're just waiting for another couple good deals, and I'll buy some more. So that's the kind of the fun way to work with investors is when you impress them, when they think you know what you're doing, because you have all the company stats, the market stats, they're going to buy with you multiple times. Because there's so many terrible realtors that say, hey, I found an 8-cap. It's in downtown Salt Lake City, and it rents for $400 a month, and it's $500,000. They have no clue what they're talking about. So you automatically have a leg up if you know how to calculate cap rate and you know how to really sound professional. So she asked a question about Airbnb. Let's get back to that. You have to have a professional looking pro forma. When I was, so bless John Harr's heart, he taught me cap rates. Love the guy, like seriously, very lucky to have been mentored by him. Professionalism was not something that he taught me as far as working with investors. I remember my first pro forma I put together on Excel. He's like, oh, awesome, that looks great. And it was absolutely pathetic. It was horrendous. I remember I had this golden investor. They came in. We sit down at the conference table, with the bear skulls. Matt worked at Mountain Land, so he went. Anyways, that's another subject. But I have this sheet and I'm like writing on a paper. I'm all excited, and the investor's like, "Who am I meeting with?" Like, that's why I grew a beard. You know, I want to look a little bit more professional, older. But they're like, "Who's this young kid writing on this weird paper, like trying to teach me about cap rates?" It was pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. And I kind of sat there after they left, like, yeah, I have they're never gonna buy with me, you know. So, anybody had an experience like that when you just realized you totally screwed the pooch? Like, not even close. Okay. So, Lindsay, you ever just talked yourself out of have you ever just talked yourself out of a recruit? Just realized, yeah, I talked way too much that appointment.
Oh, yeah.
If you-
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that whole selling, right? And
Yeah.
you're selling.
Yeah, be professional. Don't talk. Anyways, okay. So there's an app. If you guys text or email me after this, I can text it to you. It's hard to find on the App Store. It only works for people that have iPads, Macs, or iPhones, which is 99% of people. Anybody have a non-iPhone phone here? Oh, that's weird. More like a bus. No. But no, get with a friend that has an iPad, or I can lend you mine. You can check it out. But it's called Property Evaluator. It's $40. It'll make you look super smart, super professional, make you look smarter than you are, probably. That's what it's done for me. People are like, "Oh wow, you worked up this amazing pro forma." I'm gonna pull it up so you guys can look at it. While we're waiting for this, who knows what a pro forma is? Anybody have a question on what a pro forma is? Anybody not know what a pro forma is? Okay, thank you for not being afraid to. So a pro forma is just, here's what the property should do. Here's the expenses. Here's the income. Here's your 10-year outlook. Here's your 5-year outlook. It's a professional document that is a projection on what the property should do. Okay? So that's what you need to put together when you have an Airbnb, because you're not going to be able to just run the numbers and do it off the top of your head or off a calculator. That's my family, by the way. Liam, Heidi, Lauren, and by the way, oops, dang it. That's so hard to do. By the way, when you work with an investor, you need to ask them why they're investing. This is why I invest. I have a townhome that I bought from David and Stephen that is for his college, his mission and his college, and it will pay for everything that he needs until he starts making money on his own. I have a townhome for her that'll pay for mission, college, wedding, anything. So by the time they're 18, they'll be paid off and they'll be making $2,000 a month. By the way, they're going to manage those. Heidi already goes on appointments with me. She's almost 6. She's been to Boise to work with investors with me. She's done road trips with me. So this is why I invest. This is why I love investments, because I don't want to sell real estate forever. I want to be out in like 5-6 years. I would love to do that. And we'll talk a little bit at the end how I'm going to do that. And probably in about 10 years I'll be done. The next reason, does this work? That's a pointer. Yes. Okay. This is my good friend Oscar. Met him on my mission down in Peru. I became really good friends with his family. I sponsored him to come to the U.S. a couple years ago. He lived with me. I paid for his schooling. Paid for like $5,000 in dental work because he had never been to the dentist. And I was happy to do so. He's a fantastic individual. Just loved the guy to death and provided a life-changing opportunity for him. It's been really fun. We became fishing partners. He helped me remodel a couple of my flips. Now he's selling pest control in Denver, making a killing. I was really hard on him with his English, but it paid off, so he's doing well. That was really fun. I could not have done that if I had not invested well. By the way, these type of things are things you should share with your investors. Mr. Investor, here's why I invest. Does that sound like something that you want? Oh, I'd love to help people. Yeah, everyone likes to help people. This is my niece and nephew. I'm gonna buy properties that will pay for their college as well because their parents won't be able to. I just know they don't save any money. And we got to go to Bora Bora last year for a 10-year anniversary. Kind of fun. Good, better, best. This is something that if you guys want to get deep into working with investors, that's why George and Lindsay brought me here, is to help Century 21 Everest agents learn commercial, which is also a big part of that's investments. So I'm here to do that. I'm happy to get into it with you. Let's work on finding you guys some investor clients. Let's get into good, better, investments. This is a presentation I did in California to an investment group out there. Anyways, we'll go through all that. We don't think we have time, but we'll go through all that if you guys have a client or someone that you want to work on with me. We always follow jobs. We talked about that. Boise's amazing. So there's lots of cool articles that you guys should just save. And actually, I'm glad we saw that. On my iPhone, if you have OCD, you do not want to look at my iPhone. I have about 60 tabs open on Safari because I can open it up and say, oh, you want to know why Silicon Slopes, Lehi, Utah is so amazing, or why Boise is so amazing? Article after article after article, job, company, and they're like, holy crap, or I can text it to them or send it to them really quickly. So you want to have a good amount of those. Silicon Valley, why local startups are hiring outside of Silicon Valley. No joke, the Adobe HR rep told me a couple years ago, we love Utah because you all get married early, you have all these kids, not partying on the weekends because you have all these kids to feed and you have to come to work sober on Monday. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, and by the way, we can pay you less because the cost of living in Utah is so much less. They love Utah. That's why companies are moving here. So that's something you guys should probably put in your presentation. Cost of living's lower. At BYU, University of Utah, recruiters know that they can pay people way less if they'll stay in Utah. If you want to go outside Utah, you can make a lot more, but people will take way less to stay here. That's something that would be good for your investors to know. This is on, I forget what website, probably KSL. Just Google Silicon Slopes. That's a great piece of marketing to work with your investors, all the companies that have moved here. Our tech industry. What's that? Yeah, that's old. So that's not even updated. That's as of 2014. We've had like another double in the amount of, 2 times that many companies that have moved here.
What does Silicon Slopes mean?
So there's Silicon Valley in California.
Uh-huh.
So we got
There's so many tech companies, and this is part of your presentation. There's so many tech companies moving to Lehi, Utah. We've named it the Silicon Slopes
Okay.
instead of Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And they're like, oh wow, they love that. When you name off Oracle, Adobe, Workfront, all those
How
companies.
far does that go? Just Lehi, or does it go
from Alpine all the way down.
Ogden,
all the way down?
Provo.
Okay.
But the epicenter is right here in Lehi.
Okay.
That's where Adobe is, Domo, all those other companies. Okay, we're getting sidetracked. And I can send this if anybody wants it. You just email me. Lauren hates that. She was like 8 months pregnant in that photo. That's one of my townhomes I bought with these guys. So, do you think, Mr. Investor, that buying an amazing 6-cap investment property 5 minutes from the Silicon Slopes is a good move? Yeah, probably. That's part of my presentation. It looks like that. What kind of renter quality do you think you're going to have? Okay, so this is the pro forma that I have that I send out. Again, it makes me look way smarter than I would with my old Mountain Lands handwritten cap rate that didn't really sell me any properties. This takes 5 minutes to put together. You can save templates. You literally go into the software, enter in the gross rent. You have vacancy loss is set down here in your assumptions. That gives you an operating income, cleaning and maintenance, insurance. That's why I brought Jared. Jared, what's insurance on like a FIG fourplex, an $850,000 fourplex that's 2 years old?
For
Just
It's-
liability.
oh, it's $150 a unit.
You guys should probably get Jared's card so you don't have to throw in a random number like I used to, because it took him 3 seconds to tell you.
What software is this?
This is called Property Evaluator. It's only for Macs,
Oh,
so
okay.
you can't get
Alright,
it
okay,
unless you have
that's
a Mac.
the
But make a friend that has an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac
Okay.
and share the cost. It's $40 one time. It's not even $40 a month. Yeah. Okay. So no, ever, forever, $40. Management fees. It's cheap though because realtors are unprofessional. They don't care. They don't try to do stuff like this. So you guys will automatically have a leg up. This should be a $5,000 software. It's made me well over $1 million. Like it's out of control how valuable the software is. Taxes. Here's a really interesting fact. There's a lot of investors or agents who ballpark this. It's really easy to look up and call the county. There's a group right now that are marketing a project, and their taxes for a fourplex is about $6,000 lower than what they really are. So on their pro forma, they have one number. All I did was pick up the phone, called the county, said, "Hey, here's a property that's being built. What are the taxes going to be?" They told me, and I said, "Okay, Mr. Investor, here's what the taxes really are. Here's what the rents really are. Do you still want to buy it?" "No, we don't want to buy it because it's not a good deal anymore." So trust but verify. It's easy to get it right. Don't be one of those agents that's fluffing the numbers to get a sale because that's the fastest way to lose business. Association fees, that's an HOA. Actually, $125, right? I put $135 in case they end up going up. Sometimes they do when a builder finishes a project. Operating expenses, 23% plus your vacancy loss, 26%. Why is that lower than the 35% we talked about earlier? It's a brand new property. It's not going to have all the expenses that, it's not going to have the cleaning and maintenance, but you still put it away into an account. And what you do tell your investor is, what, at year 3, 4, 5, you should start putting a lot more away. Okay, so this looks very professional. Cash flow, it has a place to do, that was on the last page, to input mortgage payments, price, everything, so that you know exactly what the mortgage payment is going to be based on the interest rate, based on our lender that left. Call him, hey, that's why I asked him what's the going rate on a duplex right now or a townhome. Here's your cash flow. So Mr. Investor, for an amazing location, a location that you're never going to be able to buy it again, 5 minutes from Silicon Slopes, you can invest $70,000, get $400 a month, but that's not the best part. Let's go to the best part, which is your 1 year to 30 year. You're probably not going to hold it 30 years. Maybe we'll hold it 10 years. But let's look at this, because this is the really powerful stuff. And this is something you need software to do. You could build it in Excel if you're a nerd. It would probably take me like a month straight to build this out in Excel. I did it at BYU. It was crazy. This is done for you. It's worth the $40. So after, let's say, 5 years, okay, they're paying the mortgage for you. Your cash flow has gone up because you've increased the rent like every good landlord does. Your expenses aren't going up a ton. Maybe they're going up by, what do I have here, 3% a year. Your appreciation is huge. Your income's going up by 4% because that's just the way Utah is. So your cash flow's higher, okay, and your return on equity is pretty darn good. Well, let's go to your loan balance. They have paid off about, it's really hard to see, about almost $10,000, okay. your market value based on average appreciation. If they say, what if there's a dip? Well, there could be a dip. But based on a 10-year appreciation, you could be in, or 5 years, sorry, you could be in the 400s. If we continue, investment properties, not single family homes, investment properties have been increasing by 8 to 10% a year for the last 5 to 6 years. That might not continue.
Just a question. Why would the cap rate for purchase price be higher than the cap rate for market value? Someone can buy it.
Sorry, where are you
Uh,
looking?
So
Purchase
look at your
price?
5-year rate cap.
Mhm.
Now, for purchase price is higher than the one for the next one under market value.
So-
Market value is going up,
So this is based on the price
right?
that you bought it for.
Right.
Market value, I think I screwed up this equation. I was supposed to put in a number that changes the market value. I don't know. That's actually a number that I think I screwed up. But this is
Okay.
based on
Right. Purchase price.
the price you bought it for.
But yeah, and I was thinking if it went up in value, the market value number should be around the same or something.
Yeah, I think that's just a number. It should
Okay.
be. So it should be better than that. I don't focus on that as much. I focus on the cap rate purchase price. So yes, you're buying, and now it's actually not, it's like 5.8, 5.9. Yes, you're buying a 5.9, Mr. Investor, but look at year 3, that's a 6.4. 6.9. So you're actually, it's a fantastic investment, okay? So we go down to market value, potential cash out, 141,000. You've doubled your money in 10 years. That's pretty darn hard to do. Okay? Anyway, so going over this analysis, and we can go over the numbers together if you want, makes you sound like you know what you're doing. You know, being able to answer those questions, and I'll have to play with that now and figure out what I did wrong. But again, this just makes you sound a lot better to investors. It'll help you sell. So you can plug in potential properties they're looking at. I have investors I haven't sold on me yet. And all of a sudden they're working with 2 or 3 agents. I ask them, okay, what other properties are you considering? And I'll throw in the real numbers and send them a pro forma and then explain it to them and say, hey, yeah, that agent you're working with may have missed a few things. I don't know if it's intentional or not. Usually it's not. But do you want to work with an agent that actually knows what they're doing and isn't going to sell you a property that won't perform like you want it to? Of course. This will help you win investors for sure. Oh, and that's something else. We just bought a similar assisted living facility over here in Mill Creek. I don't even know what all this is. Okay. That's all I guess I needed that for. Got like 5 minutes. Okay. So, moral of the story is start talking to investors, talk to Stephen and David about Edge Homes. You can talk to me about the pro forma, how to build it. But find properties, market to your investors. So Carrie's not here, but one thing I was working with Carrie on, Carrie Oakes, is she's got a great sphere of influence. Most people with this awesome economy are thinking about investing in real estate. Why aren't you sending your sphere of influence a pro forma? Hey, this is Sam's investment property of the week. Probably get you a couple of extra sales. And then they call you and you're like, oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing. Come talk to me or talk to another agent here that knows investments. Okay? But this is a really easy way to make you look good. And if you throw that on Facebook, hey, here's a property I'm analyzing. Guess who just became an authority on investment properties? Guess who's going to start coming to you with questions? Okay? So I get referrals and investors now, and I'm not doing a lot of marketing to my sphere. People just know that I'm an authority on investment properties. It's fun. David and I have clients that we're getting referral after referral. Stephen and I referral after referral because they had a good experience. They know I'm professional. They know I'm going to do a pro forma. They know I'm going to do the rent research for them, and it's a really good experience, and they're making money. Questions?
So if you have a new person coming who's not like a seasoned investor, just somebody who says, I'd like to start investing, what is your first approach with them? Like, what do you tell them to save up? What do you tell, how do you start it?
I I don't love new investors if they're wanting to flip. I don't even talk to them. So don't work with flippers unless they're actual flippers already, because they will waste a ton of your time. So what I asked him, okay, Jason, what are your goals? What do you want to do?
I'd like to pick up an investment property just to start the process.
Okay,
Just one investment property.
don't ask him how much he has. What do you feel comfortable putting down on an investment property?
I could probably put 40 to 60.
Wow, good for you. That's awesome. Most people don't have 60 grand laying around. Good for you. So, are you more interested in cash flow now, or the big picture down the road having appreciation and a little bit better property? I mean, appreciation and cash flow. Which one do you think is the route you'd like to take? There's no wrong answers.
Probably cash flow now.
Awesome. Okay, so what we need to do, it sounds like you need me to find you a property that's going to be in a decent location, because you probably don't want to slum, right?
Right.
Do you have time to manage it yourself, or are you going to have an investor or a property manager manage it?
Just manage myself.
Awesome. I can teach you how to do that, because I own investment properties. So I'll teach you how to manage it the right way. Have you ever heard horror stories, Jason, about people that own rentals?
Yep.
That's because they don't know how to manage it. There's still going to be bad situations. I've had heroin addicts in my duplexes, guys beating up his girlfriend that I had to force out of the duplex. That's very, very rare. Most of the time, if we find you a good asset, you're not going to have a lot of issues. So what do you think you want your renter profile to be? Do you want them to be poor, barely getting by, but maybe have a property that's easy to rent out because of that? Because you have a lot of people that don't make a lot of money? Or do you want something a little bit nicer where they have a higher credit score, maybe a little bit better job, that's going to be maybe a little bit more work on your end, but overall a better investment?
Maybe a longer term tenant. Somebody who has money but doesn't necessarily.
See how I led them through that? You want like somebody that doesn't have a good job, and that's going to be high turnover. So
you're just
I'm asking questions, knowing where I want to lead them, and some of the time they'll say, I don't care about appreciation, or I don't care about cash flow. I want appreciation, or maybe I don't care about appreciation, I need cash flow now. That's the route I'm going to take them. Usually when they're new, they're thinking about cash flow, but it just depends. So you ask them some really good questions, and then you start walking them through, okay, well, in today's market, you have to prep them. Today's market, it's hard to find high cash flowing properties, so we're going to analyze a lot of properties for you. And I already know which one's probably the best, because I do this every day. I know which one I want you to buy, but before we look at that, let's look at what else there is on the market, see if you like anything else. So you're just educating them. Do you know how to calculate cap rate? You run them through the 35% equation. Okay, now that you know how to calculate cap rate, what do you think about location? You talk to them about I talked to them about the duplex I had in Lehigh that had heroin addicts. You don't want that? Okay, we won't even look at properties in bad locations. They'll be the higher cap rates, but they're a higher cap rate because they have to be, because they have people doing crack and heroin, and some investors don't mind that. So it's just practicing. You should probably role play this. Mr. Investor, I've had rats fighting in front of me in an investment property I was selling. That's not something I ever want to own. So I'm never going to take you that type of property unless you tell me you're okay getting a high cap rate and owning a slummy property. Does that sound fair? Okay, so let's look for something that cash flows for you.
Are there some scripts out there for investment properties?
Calling investment properties.
Some scripts for getting.
If you want to call investors who own properties, just use the Mike Ferry just sold script.
Okay.
Hey there, do you still own the property on 123 Street? Great. One of your fellow investors just sold us fourplex for $850,000. They had multiple offers. It sold at a 5 cap. When do you plan on selling? It's really easy.
What about buyers?
If you're looking to work with buyers,
Like you were doing with him, do you have like some kind of script?
I can maybe I'll record one.
Sam,
Yeah.
they're actually not much different than the scripts you use to sell residential. You just replace it with your investment properties or commercial properties. So you can use the same script, you just change the property point of interest.
Well, and it seemed like you added a lot of stuff in there, like asking, specifics on,
I'll work on that, so people that aren't as familiar with it know what to replace those things with. Yeah.
Is it harder or easier to figure out if a buyer versus a seller is legit?
For me, it's a lot easier with investors. I don't love working with buyers in residential. It's just not fun for me.
I mean,
So with-
in
In
investment,
investments, it's pretty.
do you prefer to work with the seller
Oh.
or the buyer?
I don't care.
You don't
Yeah, that's,
I guess I'd prefer to work with the seller because it's hard to find buyers' properties in this market. But most of my sales last year were, no, I'd say half and half, buyers and sellers.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you don't spend a whole lot of time with the buyers, even if you just plant.
Here's the thing about buyers though, some of them will buy 2-3 times a year from you.
Right,
So I prefer 2 or 3 deals a year over one.
right, oh, absolutely.
So it just depends.
Just to echo on that Justice Vision sold script, a lot of agents will go through it and then they'll stop, right, when they get the no. Just ask them, have you ever thought about using?
Here's a really
equity
good
or loan
question.
For investments and being able to.
Yeah, so Miss Investor, and let's assume she just said she's not interested in selling. Okay, no problem. How long have you had it? You're gonna answer, okay. What do you dislike about being an investor or a landlord? Oh, I freaking hate this. Okay, great. And which one of your investments, assuming they own multiple, isn't performing like you'd like it to? Well, I actually have this one property. It is a pain in the butt. I hate it. Oh, I have investors looking for that type of a property. They love that. How much do you think you'd want for it? Just move through it. So another good question, Lindsay, is okay, so are you in acquisition mode, hold mode, or selling mode? Oh, I'm actually in acquisition mode. So you don't want to sell anything right now, but if I find a 6 cap, it sounds like you'd be ready to buy something. Yeah, perfect. You're going to be on my short list when I find one.
I was just going to say, it's like building a database, a lot of it's word of mouth too. If you find out an investor or someone that you've known and your past clients, they have properties and you go
Yep.
ask them the same questions. If you own properties, a lot of the time when you're working with commercials and investments, they're more a database instead of you running out and showing them properties, they're all about the numbers. So it is okay to work with buyers, of course we prefer sellers, but buyers are all about the numbers, and if these numbers make sense, they'll actually jump on it really fast.
Yep. Absolutely. Commercial real estate, and I hope you guys all listened to what she just said. Commercial agents are so much smarter than residential agents. Here's why. They sell the properties themselves. They have a database. They don't put crap on the MLS. They don't want to ever put anything on the MLS. If I'm a listing agent, and it's harder to do in residential, so that wasn't a fair statement. But the really, really good residential agents sell a lot of their own listings. They have a list of people they're going to email as soon as they take a listing. And that's how commercial agents really are smarter, is they're going to wait to list something. They're going to work their database really, really hard so they can double end a listing. Double ending is really fun. When you're getting a 6%, that's really, really fun. So build your database, have a list of people you've spoken to that are sellers, that are buyers, that are holding, follow up with them once a year, and they'll turn into a seller or a buyer eventually. So work that database. Last thing I wanted to add, my goal is to have $1 billion under management, syndication-wise, in the next 10 years. So if you guys find larger properties, so I'm talking $1 million and up in Utah, we're buyers. I know you're a buyer as well, but don't give them to him, give them to me. No, he's looking as well. We have buyers out of state. So if you guys find a listing or a potential listing, or even if they say bring me a buyer, we have buyers. Bring them to me. We just wrote an offer on a property in Kansas City, $23 million. We do it syndication style, so we're not coming up with all the money on our own. But we've closed on $100 million in properties in the last 6 months. We're very serious about getting to $1 billion as soon as we can. So Carrie Oaks brought me, it's not going to work out right now, but we'll probably do a deal with them in the future. We were ready to offer on a $25 million property in Tooele. By the way, who knows about the inland port? Google Inland Port, Salt Lake City, Utah.
It's gonna change.
Domestic terrorism.
It's gonna change Utah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So please bring me any investment property. I'm happy to help you analyze it. I probably have a buyer for it. And I love to work with you guys. Any last questions?
Does that mean just land as well, or only?
I've done land and I have buyers for land for sure. In fact, Lindsay still is supposed to set an appointment with her dad for me to,
As far as commercial property?
I have commercial buyers and residential buyers. I've worked with Edge Homes with their land acquisition team, Ivory Homes, a few different companies. So yes, if you have land, I know how to help point you in the right direction. Usually we don't even need to list it. Just get a one-party agreement, for sale by owner agreement and take it to the highest bidder. But usually I'm looking for large multifamily deals. Anybody else? Cool, thanks guys. Come get David and Steven's cards because they have the best deals in the market right now. You guys should probably advertise some Edge Home deals to your client. It'll get you some sales.
Did you guys all get Sam's email? Just in case if you have questions or if you have clients you wanna work with, please get his email.